All right, guys. So I don't have too much time to, break you in on what's going on right now. You're about to see it in the video. My mama just texted me, and she just got out of surgery, so I gotta go and take care of that. But let me just bring you up to speed on what you're about to listen to. I got into a conversation with my friend about making an introduction for my podcast. I'm pretty hyped, man. Like, it's time for phase two. It's time to get it going, man. Now I'm actually going to be jumping into what I'm actually wanting to do. I already got comfortable being online and doing my shit, doing my little thing. You feel me, man? Being myself, right? I don't give a fuck about criticism no more. So now it's time to step into phase two and do what I'm ready to do. This conversation ended up being a lot more like in depth than I was actually expecting. So I just hit the record button on my computer mid conversation. So you guys are about to jump in to see where it actually gets good. Man, I hope you guys enjoy it, man. Check it out. Oh, All right, so anyways, yeah, I'm trying to figure out what am I gonna actually do for the introduction of it. And I'm not entirely sure on what. Because I have an idea of the podcast, but I'm not really, I don't know how to like sum it up all at once, you know what I mean? Like, I want to talk about, things that I find like important, right? Or like things that I want to share, but it's not going to be like, strictly of like, this is what I think, this is what I'm dropping knowledge on or anything like that, you know what I mean? Kind of want to make it like, where it's kind of like a discussion, right? Or like an expression of my opinion, or me frankly just, talking about things. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's things about like that I'm interested in, right? But it's not like a fact like of like a tutorial or trying to like do anything like that. I did a recording about, what it is to be like an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? Because one thing that I noticed on a lot of social media platforms is that you see a lot of people, they go and they put their profession as entrepreneur and things like that, and then you see them like taking pictures or like showing videos of like very flashy and expensive things, and I kind of feel like that's kind of like it's misconveying what an entrepreneur really is. So I had like a 35 minute rant. I don't go around telling people like I identify myself as an entrepreneur, but I know I am. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that really comes from, I have this friend that he was the one that did the tattoo for me, and he one time said, like from a standpoint of an artist, I mean, you don't call yourself an artist. Other people recognize you as an artist. You see what I'm saying? So I've always just left that completely up to somebody else. And people look at me and like they ask me, oh, what do I do and everything, and I explain it to them, like in all like the various things and like all that other stuff, and they identify me as an entrepreneur. And I've been doing this like ever since I was a little kid, and I don't like I just don't know how it would be like how would I be like how would I be able to formulate like all of that into like just an introduction, you know what I mean? Like an actual like introduction like to the podcast. So it's like, for example, on my YouTube videos, it's called Library Talk, but I do that from an standpoint of it being like a vlog, because I would always escape to the library to work and everything and do all that other stuff. That was basically my escape. So from now on, I just made it like a vlog, because I wanted to show people and everything what it's actually like to to do what you have to do, not just to like sit around and like hope for the best that things happen. Like, you actually have to put in the work, and you actually have to work hard. And I mean, you can have fun while you do it, but you still got to get your shit done. I've come to realize like I like to do like a lot of research and like just learn about things. I have a very big fascination about learning things, and I'm a very opinionated person. So like, for example, like let's say if somebody goes and they're like, oh yeah, I'm an entrepreneur and everything like that, look at my Bugatti, look at this nice house and everything like that, when in actuality they're just playing on people that don't really know what it is to be an entrepreneur, right? And then they show them all this flashy shit and they're like, oh man, I want to do that. I want to basically be like, fuck you, that's not a real entrepreneur and shit like that. And I want to be real about it. And I think that really comes from the fact that like I'm very self-aware, right? So yeah, I recognize that I'm an entrepreneur and everything, and within the stages that I'm at currently right now in my life, I don't have this flashy shit, right? I'm not shooting for it, right? That's not my goal. Like I frankly don't give a fuck about like, driving like an Aston Martin or like some other crazy shit. Like even my dream car is like a $30,000 car, right? Like surprisingly, like a 1969 Camaro SS is way cheaper than buying all these fucking ridiculous cars that people see. Like it's practically around the same price, if not less, because I don't know much about vehicles, right, than a Lexus. But it just has that nostalgia to it, and I've always been fascinated about nostalgia, learning things and everything, and basically, I wouldn't say all of history because I feel a lot of history is fucked up, but there's some very interesting points in history. And I do strongly believe that, if you don't learn from history, you're bound to repeat it. So, yeah. So, I mean, that's why I actually spend a lot of time learning from other people, like, before I go and, just try it out on a whim, and then it could fuck me over. You saw that video title on YouTube where it said, I'm a 29-year-old with almost $1 million in debt? In my mind, the way I analyze and look at things, because I see a bunch of stuff from multiple perspectives, I don't really have like, I'm not asphyxiated on like one belief. Like I have the capability of being able to like just look at everything and I have a feeling that probably came from either a bunch of medical bills, a bunch of debt that he accumulated from trying to live this like successful and like lavish life when in actuality they didn't have it, or they tried to go for a business venture and it blew up in their face, so now they owe a bunch of money. Yeah, it could be student loans as well. Like there's so many various things to that now that like I kind of feel like I would never want to get myself in that situation, so I'm more than happy to learn from other people. I've never realized this until like 2 weeks ago. My friend Luke, the one that I told you that does like media editing, and he has a producing company. He told me that I'm actually like from like just the way that I was like talking and everything. I told him like these couple jokes, but I heard them from other comedians. Right? But I mean, I feel like if I find a funny joke, I love to share that shit, because if it made me laugh, it's most likely gonna make someone else laugh, and I enjoy that. So when I told him that, and then I told him straight up, it's like, damn, and that was a funny ass joke. And I even told him, he's like, yeah, man, and the funniest part about it is they're not even my jokes, right? And everything. And I told him exactly where it came from, right? And then he stated out the fact, he's like, like that I'm extremely humble, like, and I never really looked at it like that, because, I mean, I'm only 22 now, about to be 23, and for the majority of my childhood, I was very reclusive. I hung out by myself a lot and everything, and I think that's what made, well, I know that's what made me the person that I am now. Right? I've gotten very aware and very, like, I would say reserved and kind of, like, humbled by it. Because I've always had to, like, come out and be like, I don't know this, but I want to learn. Or, like, be doing, and I'll be working hard, and I'm working like persistent, and I'm working my ass off. And because I have such big aspirations and big dreams, that at the moment, like, I feel like I'm not working hard enough. But when other people look at me from their perspectives, they think I'm killing it. And that always just comes to perspective. Because I mean, what if it comes down to the situation where it's like I have two people in front of me? For example, you have somebody that works a 9 to 5, let's say at a fast food place, right? They're making a little more than minimum wage, so their life sucks, and like they just hate their own life. I'm not necessarily because of the job, but because they're miserable. They just hate their life. And then from right there, they can look at me and think that I'm killing it, or they can think that I'm crazy and everything for doing these things, because from their small-minded view, they think it's never going to work. Now, let's say we put somebody that is really up on that scale, right? And then like they're just killing it out of all like their years of work and eating shit, they're fucking up there. So it's like, even right now, me trying to figure out like what to have the introduction for on this video, am I overthinking it, or am I actually going through the right process to figure it out? And like that's it. Like that kind of sucks. But I kind of wish like school, when you went through it, it told you this stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like in the beginning, couple of years, like let's say while you're in elementary school, they're like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? And like they did this in all elementary schools. I don't know if they did it where you were too. But they ask you that, and then that's it. They don't follow up at all on anything that you fucking said. It's like, oh, I want to be a fireman. I want to go and do this. I want to go and do that. Right? It's like, all right, cool. Well, it's time to learn social studies.
Kind of like give me the steps.
Like seriously, it's like, all right, cool. Like I want to own my own business and everything. I want to be able to travel the world and live out of a book bag. And that's honestly my own personal dream. Hey, when I was a little kid, at first I wanted to be a roller coaster designer. Right? I know, right? It was a pretty cool thing. I definitely wanted to be a roller coaster designer, and I loved it. Like it was just amazing. Like I just thought it was so cool, just having that adrenaline and that thrill and everything. And then what kind of pushed me away from it was the steps and like the requirements that I would have to go through school, and then on top of that, it wasn't even guaranteed or even a good chance of even becoming a roller coaster designer. Like the majority of people that go to school and everything like that and pursue that career end up becoming engineers and start building bridges, or just some other stuff. They just become like another form of engineer, because being a designer for something like that, you not only need to become an engineer, you need to also know like physics and everything like that, because too much G-forces can kill somebody. And then on top of that, you need to be able to learn at least some level of like architectural work to be able to build it. And they don't fucking tell you any of this. So it's like, what do you really use as a measurement? And this is also why I'm having such a hard time thinking of an introduction for this podcast, because I think extensively on so many variables and like different things that add up to the actual, overall thing, that sometimes I question myself, am I overthinking it, or am I doing the process? Or what? And then if that's the case, how do I capture that just within like a 30-second to a maximum 1-minute introduction? How do you simplify that? Maybe the fact that teachers or educators cannot actually see from their students' perspective is the reason why. They just have a general standpoint of what they believe kids need to learn. But I kind of feel like that's a double-edged sword, and one side is sharper than the other. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got this side where it's like, yeah, they can't see it and everything, but they're really trying. Then you got the other side where it's like, you're wasting that kid's time, discouraging them, right? Or just completely sending them in the completely wrong direction. Like for me personally, I went to high school, I went to college, but I've gotten to a point where I had to stop listening to other people and the society's norm, right? And do what I felt like was right. And even though that set me back like a motherfucker, right? Because I was working in restaurants, I was making very good tips, and I was in college, I was going to get a degree, and I completely stepped all away from all of that, and I basically started from square one. So it's like the work that I put in since I was 13 years old in restaurants, right, literally got restarted by the time I was 21. And then within the last year, I'm becoming who exactly I was meant to be and like who I am, and I'm trying to learn on how to express it. So I'm trying to like cram like 20 years of understanding within 1 year, and I'm not even too sure if I'm doing it right or doing it wrong. There is one thing that I do know though. I want to call the podcast The Howl. Not like Howl, like my last name, Howell, but Howl, Howl, like a wolf, right? Or like what a dog does. And yes, I do like animals and everything, that does kind of play a part, but I feel like it's more the fact that the reason why a wolf or a dog like howls is it's a signal. It's basically like a factor of them being like, I'm here. right? It's more of like a recognition kind of thing. Even when a wolf is like, they howl and everything, and like they're alone or they're in pain, they're howling for help. Right? They're trying to get the attention of the other people around them, and well, the other wolves around them and everything like that, to come to their aid. Right? So that's what I felt like I should really name it, because growing up I was so quiet and everything like that. I never asked for help and everything, and I love that I did that because it gave me the tools to be able to do research and learn by myself. Right? It gave me the complete capability of, if I don't know something, I know for a damn fact if I put my mind to it, I can find out, regardless on how long it takes. But I'm aware enough, and I completely understand the fact that if somebody knows something, they could save me God knows how much time. Right? Like, I can go and be like, oh, I don't want to buy a cell phone, I'm going to make my own. Well, congratulations, motherfucker. Now you got to go and figure out how the hell a cell phone's made. Now you got to know how to make a cell phone tower. Now you got to know how to make all that other shit work. And God knows how many years that's going to take. Or you can just listen to somebody and just fucking go to Metro or Sprint or whatever the fuck and just get a phone. See what I'm saying? So I guess it comes from an eagerness to like reach my maximum capability, and a subtle undertone of fear that comes from wasting my time on steps that I don't need to waste. Yeah, because your dreams or your goals or anything, they're not going to wait for anybody at all. Like, for example, Morgan Freeman. That dude was pretty old when he actually got picked up, for acting careers and everything. Yeah, he was Morgan Freeman was over 50 years old when he did it. Now, Morgan Freeman didn't get into acting like within his like late 40s or anything, and it was a couple of years. No, he's been interested in going for acting for years, for decades, before he actually even got recognized. Yeah, and that happens with a lot of people. Like, there's an immense amount of examples just like that. So that's the thing. I'm in no rush to make it happen, but I'll be damned if I'm gonna be dumb enough to sit around and just idly wait thinking that one day it's gonna happen. You know what I mean? Because I know for a fact if I keep putting in the work and everything, and I go to sleep that night knowing that, you know what, today I tried my best and I put in my effort and I gave it all I had, I know for a damn fact I'm closer to where I'm gonna go. Regardless if it's going to be in my 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever. That age point is irrelevant. The purpose of it is, getting there, putting in the work to get there. Because if you just think, if somebody told you for a fact that in 20 years you're going to be successful, you're going to have everything that you want out of life, out of your wildest dreams, but in exactly 20 years from this day, you will make it, everyone would try their ass off for those exact 20 years because they know for certain that it will happen. The problem is that's not the way life is. And even then, you could be chasing a shadow. You can be completely in a situation where it's really not actually that. That's not actually what you were going to be successful in. And I feel like those are people that are blindly following things. Like right now, for example, this whole entrepreneur craze. Something that I found very interesting. I'm thirsty. Something that I found very interesting that I heard in one of Gary Vee's podcasts was that this whole era, like this boom of entrepreneurship, is amazing because it's going to open up so many opportunities for people that were entrepreneurs and people that actually were destined to be it, and they would have never known it existed until then, right? And they're going to kill it. And then there's people that are just chasing like chasing this false reality that they feel like they need because of society's norms, and they're gonna burn. They're gonna crash, burn, and fuck themselves over so badly. Like there's no doubt about it. But I guarantee you, one thing that will definitely happen out of it, the majority of people that actually get into it thinking that they're entrepreneurs and all this other stuff, the majority of them are going to fail. And that's just the way it is. Because if you really think about it, if everybody was meant to be an entrepreneur, and if everybody was meant to be a boss or like an owner of their own company, there would barely be any employees. There would barely be any employees. There would be a shit ton of businesses and barely any employees. And that's not the case. Even now, the majority of people are employees. That's why the whole reference of the 1%ers is exactly that. Literally, only 1% of people in the entire world have achieved this kind of life, this kind of reality. And so, I mean, there's no way in hell that out of this boom it's going to completely transfer over, and then there's going to be 1% of employees and 1% of poverty people, and then there's going to be 99%. Because that 1% were like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't want to be an entrepreneur. I don't want to start a business or anything like that. That's ludicrous. It's not going to happen like that. Like, even when it comes down to it, and one thing that I don't want to say it kind of bothers me or anything, because frankly it doesn't. But people are getting sold this idea that it is so easy to start a business, and that all you need to do is point and click, and you can do it within like a couple hours out of the week. And that's complete bullshit. Because let's say, for example, me, I'm doing Amazon FBA, and I'm getting that going. It's not like that. I'm doing easily anywhere between a minimum, I would say, like on my lazy days, 8 hours of work. And then fucking days that I feel like crazy, like just going in and got to do a lot of shit, and like those are the days I feel the most hectic, I'm doing anywhere between 12 to 14. And then, I mean, mind you, don't get me wrong, like there's days where I literally just don't do shit. And it's not because it's like, oh man, like, you know, it's just so simple, it's so easy. Like there's times where like I think to myself, it's like, fuck, like is it worth it? Like I get scared, and like fear and like doubt, you know, consume my productivity that day, right? And it's extremely hectic. But I mean, there's something inside of me that tells me, like, don't give up. Don't just listen to that fear or anything like that. There's something always inside of me telling me to keep getting up and to keep fighting for it. And next day, I want you to try even harder. Get up and recuperate from this last day, right? And one thing that I do truly respect, but I kind of have to disagree with, is one thing that I heard from, like, it was a motivational video that I listened to when, like, I was just feeling down, that Will Smith was talking about how you have to wake up every morning and just lay a brick down the best that you can lay it. Right? Don't look at the entire wall that you have to build and everything, because that's extremely intimidating. And I completely agree with that. You have to look at it from step to step to step to step. But he said, if you miss one day and you go to the next day and that brick isn't there, and then you just continue, right, leaving that brick empty. I mean, leaving that brick like non-existent, just that gap in the wall, and you complete the wall, your wall's gonna have a weak spot. And yes, I completely agree with that as well. However, the way that I see it is that, let's say that day you didn't put a brick down, and it's like, damn, it's like, truthfully, you messed up. Regardless of how you were feeling, regardless on how I was feeling, that brick should have been laid. Right? You're trying to build that wall, that brick should have been laid. It should have been put down. But it didn't. So The next day, I'm gonna wake up earlier, right? Just because I'm eager to fix my wrong. And I'll lay 2 bricks that day. And I'll make sure both bricks are perfectly done. And a lot of times, those are my 12, 14-hour days. But I'm not going to just go, oh, well, forget it. I didn't lay the brick. Next step. No, fuck that. There's a lot of things that need to go into it, right? And just because I messed up that one day doesn't mean it's all over. I mean, if that's the case, why give people that were in jail or in prison a second chance when they get out? Oh, well, they fucked up already. Let's just leave them as is. No, that's not what you do. You get your ass back up and you fucking try. And you try to fix that mess up. You try to fix that slip. And if not, do something. Make it better. Instead of the next day you missed a brick, grab a longer brick. Fill up both spots. Make it right. Because you can always make it right. I kind of have a feeling I know what I'm going to make the introduction. I think so. Truthfully, I don't know how I feel about it. Like seeing it on paper and everything, I don't know anymore. So basically what I came up with was where I learn my way to success and help others reach theirs. I don't know. Something inside of me just doesn't like it.
You don't think that's what you're doing?
No, I do think that's what I'm doing, but I don't know how I feel about it being an introduction. That's what I'm talking about. Because, and you know what the funny thing is? Even right now, this is the beginning of a podcast. This introduction is really not that, it's not that insanely crucial, right? Because for the first, what I said, 30 seconds, I could just have a little music and a bunch of little clips of videos and everything, or so on and so forth. Welcome to the Howl, and basically saying, welcome to the Howl, and then now introducing your host, Andrew Howl, and that's it. And just start off like that, and then from that point it'll be me talking about the things where I feel like I want to express, or I feel like I need to share, and yeah. What about having it the Howl, where wolves unite? Nah, I don't know how I feel about that. No, I don't like that either. The Howl, a pack of success. Ooh, the Howl, where this lone wolf expresses his viewpoint, and no, I stopped liking it halfway through that. I just stopped liking it halfway through that. Fuck. Let's see. Where a lone wolf expresses his view on the world.
It's not bad. But I don't know.
Sounds weird. I don't know. I like. It's got to be something. The thing is, I was thinking about putting that entrepreneur video as the first one, but I feel like since this whole conversation is about making the introduction of the podcast, I feel like this should be the first video. When it comes down to it, everyone that has a podcast, and mainly the ones that have an introduction towards their podcast, they have definitely sat there for hours, right, if not days, trying to figure it out. And even with a YouTube video that I was just recently watching, because I was doing some research on how to make a podcast introduction, like, what makes a really good podcast introduction. He mainly said the most important thing was music, right? And, like the shots that you take. And he had one that was just no audio, well, not audio, no voiceover, just music and clean shots for the video. And he said he played that for the first 7 months of his podcast until eventually, like, he wanted to express a bit more of, like, what he was talking about. Like, so, like, when new users come up, they can know, like, just right off the bat, this is what the podcast is about. So that kind of brings me back to just that whole idea that I might be just overthinking it. The howling my perspective. I wouldn't say it's good either. Howling my rants. One thing that I've realized, that everything that I talk about or want to proceed to has to do with becoming like basically people becoming their better selves, right? And rising up to rising up to their full potential. So why not make it breeding alphas? Not the name of it, but basically just a little tagline. Like the Howl, where alphas are bred. Where alphas recognize their full potential. Yeah, because I'm talking about like what it is to truly be an entrepreneur. And another one, I'm talking about love and hate, and how basically love and hate is, it's basically like two separate demons, and whichever one you feed, that's the one that grows. Right? And if you want a positive, love-filled life, you gotta share that. If your life is weltering around negativity, you're gonna have a negative and shitty lifestyle. So a lot of the things that I talk about really have to do with, basically people, reaching their full potential and, becoming the best that they could be, while I'm on the road to me becoming the best that I could be. Damn, that's a fucking head twist, isn't it? Wow. No, I like that. I'm not gonna make that the introduction yet. However, I'm definitely gonna keep that like on the top of ideas when it comes to the introduction. I feel like currently right now I'm gonna stick to just having like a quick little like music introduction, have the words, a couple little videos and all that other stuff, and then just do that for a little bit. And then I'm sure with time, as I progress and I have a full idea of the direction of this podcast channel would be, it's gonna hit me like a ton of bricks. But I feel like currently right now, the things that I've thought of, I feel like they're a good start. They're definitely a good start. So you want to know what's the funny part about this? What's the outro? What's the outro? How am I going to end this